Anxiety generally will peak in the late springtime, and my sponsor, BetterHelp, can connect you with a therapist that will help. The majority of BetterHelp members seek help for anxiety, and 69% of members report better anxiety symptoms after just 6 weeks on therapy with BetterHelp. It's easy to start. Just fill out a questionnaire, and you will match with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. You can easily switch therapists anytime, and there's no extra cost if it's not the right fit. BetterHelp carefully make sure all therapists on the platform are licensed, and their customer support team is there to help you in case you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is simply a platform you can trust. I want you to let BetterHelp help rule your anxiety so your anxiety does not rule you. Go to betterhelp.com/Chael. That's going to get you 10% off your first month of help. betterhelp.com/Chael. Or I made it even easier. You can just click the link below.
I'm in New York, and Final X is right around the corner. We're going to the trials. We're going to the Final X. Now, this guy come up to me. He said, "You hear about Kyle Snyder?" I said, "Yeah. I heard all about him." He said, "Well, what'd you think?" I said, "Well, not going to high school your senior year, going out to the Olympic Training Center, be under some of the top minds in the world, it was a very impressive thing. It was a lot to ask of a high school kid, not to mention he was in the same weight class, still domestically. I'm talking about Fargo still coming up. He's in the same bracket as Jaden Cox. Like, you know, before we go and look at winning world golds, Fargo's not going to be easy." And this is what I told him. He goes, no, not that. I said, "Hey, did you hear about Kyle Snyder?" I said, yeah. Are you talking about being a 2-time champion for Ohio State? Are you talking about when Ohio State put out a release that they would have major news regarding their wrestling team and that would come out at New Year? Ohio's 2 hours ahead of Oregon. So I remember where I was in Oregon. It was 10 o'clock at night. I'm at Morton's Restaurant, the same place my family goes every year for New Year's. And I get the tweet. It's 10 o'clock my time, but that's midnight straight up in Columbus. And Ohio State puts out a tweet. "We are pulling Kyle Snyder's red shirt." Now, the reason this was such a big deal is Kyle had only wrestled at 197, but he became the world champion at 211. He became the Olympic champion at 211. So we know he's not going to go under 211 because international style is so important for him. But he also can't be going heavyweight because that's Gwiz's weight. 2-time defending national champion. So when Ohio State announces they're pulling the red shirt, they then have to go over the top of that and put at heavyweight. The biggest match in the history of wrestling. And I hear that debated a lot. Bannock, Schultz. I hear it debated a lot. Owens, Gable. I hear it debated a lot. Wyatt, Stevenson. But they're wrong. The biggest match in history of wrestling, if we're just talking about purely eyeballs, how many people watched it? ESPN will back me up for the biggest match in the history of wrestling is Kyle Snyder versus Nick Gwiazdowski for the NCAA championship. The guy said, no. Chael, I don't think you're following me. He said, "Did you hear about Kyle Snyder?" I said, "Yeah. He graduated and wrestled before there was an NIL deal. So they found a way to put his Living the Dream Metal Fund and all of his sponsorships and Rudis and everybody else that wanted a little piece of that into an escrow account, let him graduate with his degree, eligibility intact, and he became the first ever millionaire from wrestling." Guy says, no, Chael, did you hear about Kyle Snyder? Something else. I said, "I know everything there is to know about Kyle Snyder." I said, "I know that is a man of integrity. That is a man of faith. That is a man nonetheless. So he's an imperfect man of faith. He's an imperfect man of integrity. He is a wonderful friend. You can take him at his word. He is sober. And he's qualified for Final X. And he should show. And if there's anything else that you're discussing that has to do with Kyle Snyder, I would ask you, how can you take a life of good deeds, and focus on the one that wasn't so good? How can you do that? How can you take somebody that breaks records, that gives back, that helps other people, that supports our sport? How could anything other than those wonderful moments and those championships and those record-setting matches and returning to defend his program, how could any of that not be what you're talking about? So I turned back to the other person and I said, maybe it's you. Maybe it's you who hasn't heard about Kyle Snyder.